So welcome everyone. I think we're already live and we are on the hour. So let's start with our session. So my name is Tiago Costa and I'm going to talk today about Azure Functions and why, if you're still lacking the use of Azure Functions, I call that is a little bit disturbing, okay, to say the least, because it's such a cool feature, okay? So talking about here, don't forget that there is a new name, okay, for the SharePoint conferences. So now it's called Microsoft 365 Collaboration Conference. It will happen in Las Vegas on March 23rd to 25th next year. And also, thanks for our sponsors, okay? Without them, of course, these kinds of events will not just be possible to be made. So a great thank you to all of them. Also, you also have here basically my presentation. So my name is Tiago Costa. I work as a cloud architect and advisor for the Microsoft Cloud. So basically, I mainly work today with Azure. I have a huge background with SharePoint. That's what I used to do back in the days. And because of that background, I usually help a lot of companies. Okay, also with integrations with Office 365 and things like that. I'm also an MVP for Microsoft Azure, Microsoft certified trainer, and also a regional MCT regional lead. You have my contacts in here. So if you want to follow me on Twitter, is Tiago Costa PT. Okay, it's my Twitter name. Also my website where I publish some stuff, and also my emails. If you want to drop me an email, more than welcome. Don't forget, okay, to basically we are going to give away a raffle in a raffle of 3 Oculus. So you can just basically participate in the raffle, okay? If you want to have the bit link over there. Also, basically, if you want, also consider to donate. So as everyone understand, we're living, let's just say a different time for sure. And this kind of organizations, they can do a huge difference, okay, in people's life, improving their fight against COVID and things like that. So United Way and International Medical Corps, okay? So I usually like to start my presentations, well, with just a short message. So what I bring here today is, if for you guys having coffee in the morning doesn't wake you up, well, in the Azure world, try to delete the production resource group. I kind of steal this from a meme that I found online about tables and databases and things like that, but this makes all the sense. And I remember this because this has just happened to me. I think it was like 2 years ago or something like that. But it was quite okay. It was quite cool because I had a customer. Yeah. So basically, I had a customer call me like very earlier, like 5 a.m. in the morning or something like that, because it just messed up. Okay, and they didn't put in a resource lock, and so basically, they just deleted everything that was not supposed to happen. So there you go. So basically, what will be our agenda for today? So our agenda is why Azure. Okay, why Azure is the choice to run this kinds of workloads. Then we're going to talk about what is serverless, and then we're going to talk about specifically about Azure Functions, and then also a little bit about durable functions and what can we do also with durable functions. So why Azure? So basically, in terms of cloud models that we have today, so we can run stuff on-prem, and yeah, look, it just runs, right? And stuff, we run stuff on-prem. We used to run stuff on-prem for years and years. But we always need to over-provision servers. Every time that I had to buy new servers, it was kind of a messy situation, right? Because I was like, yeah, okay, I need new servers. I need to go to the market, find what servers do I need. ask suppliers, okay, to do some proposals to us. Then someone in my company need to check that. Depending on the amount of investment, I maybe need to involve the financial department too, and things like that. This takes ages until you guys get the servers up and running in a rack so that you can just start to create virtual machines, containers on them. It will take ages. We don't want that. I want to be agile. I want agility. And I get that when I'm in cloud, okay, when I'm using cloud computing, because, hey, I need a virtual machine now. Okay, yeah, go to Azure, create a virtual machine, and bam, you get a virtual machine. That's the infrastructure as a service proposal that we have here. And of course, the great advantage is that you don't have to manage the networking, the storage, the servers, or the virtualization. All of that, it is managed by the supplier. And that's like awesome, because again, I don't need to basically do procurement to get servers or network devices. I don't need to do a research on, hey, is this the model of the server that really fits my needs? I don't have to do anything like that, okay? I just need to say, I want that virtual machine, bam, and I get the virtual machine. But I still manage the operating system. I still control all that, the middlewares, the runtime, so it's kind of the same thing almost as running this on-prem. For some IT personnel, their life is not going to change that much. We also have platform as a service, and when we start to move up to platform as a service is where we start to see big advantages on all of this, okay? And it's in here because I don't have any more operating system to manage, or middleware, or runtime. This is like the app service in Azure or SQL databases, okay, that really give us, okay, the big opportunity to not have to manage this. So the vendor, in our case, Microsoft Azure, will just manage all that for us. But of course, I'm still responsible for building an app, deploying the app there, and doing all of that. So Azure Functions is one of them, one of the models in Azure Functions, because there are several models to host Azure Functions, but one of them, I can just fit them right into this bit, okay, in the app service. But I can do better, okay? And you can see here like software as a service, where I don't even have to manage the data like a database or writing code to run the app. A great example of this is like Microsoft 365, Office 365. So I just basically go there, create a tenant, create users over there, and then bam, okay, I have all of that. I have all of that created. So Azure currently is the second largest cloud provider. We currently have between Azure Gov, between special regions like Germany and China, and GA, Global Azure regions, and also announced regions. We currently have already 61 regions worldwide. That's like an astonishing number, and I keep saying this number still surprises me how big it is for the number of years that Azure has, because Azure is not that old, and still we already have 61 Azure regions, and that's important for enterprises that they need to fulfill regulations from specific countries where they operate. Like, okay, in the US, it's easy because, well, they have data centers in the US, okay, done, and there are several. But some other countries, smaller countries like in Europe, there are like regulations that say that your data needs to reside within the country where you are. So yeah, you have to have, for that stuff, you have to have data in country A, B, C, or D. So it is important to have as many regions as we can have, and for them to be spread across different countries. In terms of network, okay, we can also have up to 100 gigabits of network, so it's quite cool. Okay, basically in terms of lower latencies that we can have with this, but also the bandwidth that Azure can give us. It is quite cool. And also for you to understand, so there is a private network when it comes to Microsoft Azure and the Microsoft Cloud that today corresponds to 1.6 million miles of fiber all around the world. And like I said, Azure is spread across the world. We have data centers in North America, South America, Africa, Europe, Asia, Australia, okay, and in Asia, like Singapore, India, China, Hong Kong, Korea. So there's like literally, okay, all around the world we have, okay, data centers. Also in the Middle East, okay, so there's like data centers currently in most regions, okay. And then everyone explains regions this, regions that, but I like to show you, okay, what looks like an Azure region. And this is how does an Azure region looks like. This is Virginia in 2014. And as you can see, there's like a parking spot over there, like some parking spaces for cars on the right bottom of the picture. And this is a sizable building. Like, my God, this is huge. Well, this is in 2014. This is 3 years later. So that first picture is that buildings over there, and this already had to expand a lot. I just show these pictures because I want you guys to understand that the growth that Azure has every single year in 3 years, okay, corresponds to this specific region has more buildings, okay? We also had other buildings being built in the same region, probably in other sites. And we also have other regions being built and being available to be used. And also we had a consolidation on the hardware. So same space corresponds to more compute power today than what it was 3 years ago. So all of this together, this is the growth that Azure has in the physical terms. Okay, this is a very cool picture to show how big Azure needs to grow in just 3 years. And then why, okay, why Azure? And a lot of people ask me like, okay, I'm an IT professional. I'm not using the cloud yet. Why a career, okay, on using Azure or cloud in general? Well, there's a huge demand from customers. I know some geos, they're still starting now, but most regions, like in the United States, in Europe, in Asia, look, customers just, okay, we're going to put this in the cloud. Then they have to decide, okay, am I going to put this in Azure or other clouds like AWS or GCP, IBM, etc. But their goal is, I want this on the cloud, period. Okay, there is no more, oh yeah, we can use on-prem and things like that. That's just gone. Okay, they just don't want that anymore. So it is nice to have the skills for sure. Then fun to work with. I really love what I do, okay? And that's really cool, I have to confess that. And every project that I do, it is a different project. So even if like, oh, you have to migrate this from here to there. Okay, we used to do this with a tool, okay? We used to do this with ASR. Today, we can do it Azure Migrate, okay? And then there are new tools, there are features now, okay, in our design. So a design and an architecture that I designed like a year ago, today I can improve it and I can tweak it a little bit, and there's always new features coming out. And that's the beauty of this. I really like this constant change and the constant need to get updated that just doesn't stop, okay? It is pretty cool. And of course, well, the big advantage that I have with using the cloud for the pay for what you use. I don't need to over provision big virtual machines just in case I get a lot of demand. I have to have the capacity. I don't do that anymore. I just basically have, in terms of, I just reserve the capacity that I need to run the application now. If then the application will need to have more capacity, more compute capacity, okay, the power of the cloud, I can make and I can create automations to make that happen. So I'm going to be able to say, hey, I need more compute capacity, just give me that, okay? And we're going to see that exactly how cool this is with Azure Functions, because it's even cooler than what I'm saying now. So with this, we get to a topic that I call it cloud architecture serverless. So it's just basically to talk about this new model that exists, that it's called serverless. Serverless doesn't mean that you're not going to have servers, okay? Then of course there are servers, but the thing is, you're so higher that it's so abstract anymore that you just don't consider servers anymore when you're using things like this. It just I have a service, I go to the service, I instantiate the service, I use the service, and then of course the service has some capacity, but usually it's not measured in, oh, it's one core with 4 gigs of RAM, or no, it's just not that. It is like, okay, processes per second, IOPS and things like that, or messages that I can process per second, capacity, that's it. There are no more server, gibberish being handling over there. So I usually like to say that serverless, it's not no servers, it's just what it is, just less, servers. So to tell all this, let's just tell a story, okay? So the evolution of application platform. So we started some years ago, we had what, on-premises, right? And when I built something to on-prem, well, we had a few questions, okay? I'm not going to tell them all, but like, what size of servers should I buy? That's the one that I was telling you. Do I need a UPS? Who has physical accesses to my servers, where they are? What is the operating system that I need to use for this? What about patching? Oh my God, patching. We need to have a patching, right? A patching compliance thing here. So we have to say that, oh, we patch every week or every month or whatever. And look, a lot of other questions, okay? Like you have to have high availability, et cetera, all of that. If we move to infrastructure as a service on the cloud, we still have a lot of questions, okay? But those questions are more organized. And it's like more, okay, what right sizes of servers I need? How can I increase the server utilization? How can I scale this? Okay, what about patching? Okay, I still need to patch. I still need to choose an OS. I still need to choose a monitoring, a monitoring application. So that there is still a lot of questions, but there are less questions. Okay, there's like not, oh, how can I procure this? Do I need a UPS? That's gone. Okay, it's not my responsibility anymore. Microsoft will handle that. But if I go to platform as a service, that's even cooler, because look, there are a lot of stuff that just comes out of my hands, and I just deliver this to Azure to deal with that for me, which is, okay, I just need to ask it's, what's the size of my instances? How can I increase the server utilization? How many servers do I need, and how do I scale? But if I go back one slide, so you see that those bottom two, okay, patching servers, backing up, that's gone. Deploying new code to the server when you have a new server, operating system and monitoring, that's gone, okay? Just that's done by the platform. You don't have to do this. But then I can even go to serverless. And when I tell serverless, that's the beauty of this, is I have one question only. It is, how do I architect my application? Okay, that's my question. I don't have to deal with server sizes, scaling. Okay, we don't have anything like that. So basically, serverless is the platform for cloud native apps. It should be the platform for choice. So when we talk about serverless, we talk about abstraction of servers. Okay, we talk about event-driven instant scale applications, because you don't have to think or consider scaling anymore, like I do when I have an app service. So when I have an app service, yes, I need to go there and I need to say, hey, yeah, I want to scale this based on metrics like CPU consumption and things like that. When I talk serverless, I just Don't. That's not a thing. And also micro billing. You're just paying for exactly what you need. Not like app services or like platform as a service or infrastructure as a service that you book this capacity, you reserve the capacity, you pay for that compute capacity, period. If you use it or if you don't use it, you're always paying for the capacity that you reserve. Like you go create a virtual machine, the virtual machine is running, right? An app service is running, yeah, you're paying that, and you have those 2 cores, 8 gigs of RAM, for example, and that's it. With serverless, that just doesn't happen, okay? So with serverless, let's talk about Azure Functions in particular. I have an Azure function that will just do some background job. Hey, it just does the job, finishes the job, 2 minutes to finish the job, done. What you pay those 2 minutes, that's it. So you don't pay more than that, you just pay exactly for what you use. That's the beauty of something like Azure Functions, okay? So Azure Serverless Platform. So I have Azure Functions. Azure Functions are pretty cool to execute basically some background tasks based on triggers. So I can have events in other services that are going to be fired, and based on that trigger, hey, bam, my function will just run. Okay, it's pretty cool. And it's just a developer experience. So you just go to Visual Studio, Visual Studio Code, or your preferred IDE, and you just start to write code over there, and you just say, this is my function, then just run this. When it comes to other stuff, like, for example, logic apps, okay, which is also serverless, a serverless experience in Azure. It's more a visual, okay, experience that I have. So it's more creating some workflows, but still it's super powerful. And again, serverless. I have a bunch of logic apps running for me personally, and it facilitates my life a lot because every stuff that I need to automate, that I can automate, I always try to do like a workflow experience with logic apps. You can also do it, okay, with Flow, Power Automate, and I think most of you know, basically in the bottom, okay, this is running on top of Azure, so it's kind of logic apps, okay. So if you talk about pure Azure, okay, and I will remove Power Automate because Power Automate, it's more from the Microsoft 365 family, not so much on the Azure part. So this is the platform. I have functions to run background tasks. I have logic apps to design workflows, experiences, and I have Event Grid, okay, that manages events and then can trigger some other code or logic. So like if even stuff that happens on Azure, like, oh, someone dropped, deleted a resource group, okay, that could be an event. The event is triggered, and then I can execute something. That something can be a logic app, can be a function, you name it. There are other services here like AI, REST APIs, Stream Analytics, IoT hubs, basic security stuff, storage, databases that can also run, okay, as a serverless components. And all of this, it is supported by a big development community. And that development components that Microsoft builds, I can have IDE support. Like I have IDE support today for most of the things that you see here on the slide, okay, on the right, on the platform. Also integrated DevOps. I'm talking about Azure DevOps. I can build stuff putting in GitHub, then having GitHub Actions, or having Azure DevOps and Azure DevOps pipelines deploying all of this directly to Azure, which is quite cool what I can do. Also monitoring tools with Log Analytics and Azure Monitor, all integrated with this. You just have to connect the services. It's pretty cool what you can do with this, okay? And also, of course, visual debugging, doing local debugging, local developing, deploying this straight to the cloud, just from my computer. That's experience, that rich development experience that we want, that Microsoft always delivers that. Okay, sometimes, yeah, we know, yeah, they could improve for sure. I'm here to tell them that, hey, that could be improved so that they improve. But comparing with other providers, it is quite cool, I have to confess. So I'm just going to do a quick demo on the logic apps. Okay, so I have here my Azure portal. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to create here a resource. Okay, and I'm just going to show you how logic apps are cool. Okay, so I can just create here a logic app. I'm just going to create here, okay, M365, okay, Marathon, and basically a logic app. I'll just say like Lamo demo logic, and I'll just choose here a region. And in my case, I'm from Europe, by the way, so I'm going to choose here a cool region, which is West Europe. So West Europe, by the way, for people that don't know, it's in the Netherlands. So it is near my house, kind of. I don't live in the Netherlands, by the way, but there you go. So this is my logic app, and you see, hey, I want a new logic app. You see, how I didn't have this created. This is not a video, okay, guys. This is live, and you see how fast it is to create something like this. I already have here, oh, start with common triggers. So if you want to start with common triggers, they have several of them in here. But I can also say I want a blank logic app, or I can even have here some logic apps, as you can see here, that are already built for you. So like, I don't know, like delete old Azure blobs, okay? So you have like a trigger, it will just start, I don't know, like every 30 minutes. Then you can set it up. And then it goes there and like checks, oh, if you have blobs that are older than 1 year, hey, just delete them, okay? So you can build this. This is a feature that already have in Azure blobs, but you get the idea. So it's in here. And you have other stuff here, okay? So I'm not going to do this. I'm just going to create a blank one so that you guys can see the full experience, okay? So in here, for example, I have like some recent ones that I was testing here the other day. But I can just come here and let's imagine we want to build logic app that triggers every time that someone posts a specific, okay, hashtag on Twitter. So I can just go, I can just search here, okay, for Twitter. You get like all the experience here. Oh, Twitter, yeah, and then you have triggers and actions. In my case, because this is the first, it needs to be a trigger. So the logic app needs to be triggered. Then I need to sign in. Okay, and I'm just going to use here my credentials. Okay, I'm just moving this to the other window. Okay. This my, there you go. Okay, so I was just putting the username and the password. That's it. And then I need to say, okay, search for text. Okay, and I'll just say Azure rocks. Okay, so if someone just tweets to me, okay, Azure rocks. Okay, this will just run, and I'll just say 1 minute. Then I can add the new step, and then my step. Let's just do something. Let's just send me an email. Okay, something pretty basic. So I just want to send an email. So if we just do this, send an email, and you have here a bunch of providers. I can click here and make it bigger. I'll just want to use, yeah, outlook.com. That would be great. I want to send an email. Reply, no. Oh, send an email. Yeah, that's the one that I want. I need to sign in again. Okay, so same thing. Okay, for me to sign in. And of course, my camera is busy with this. I need to put my PIN. There you go. So I'm logged in I'm using an outlook.com account, okay, to log in, and now I can just say, hey, just send an email, okay, to my business email, and I'll just say new tweet, oops, has been posted, okay, and let's just use this in the body too, okay, let's just say best regards, your logic app. Okay, and now in here, hey, I want the text, okay, and I want to know who tweeted, okay, tweeted by, and just do this. And now here, basically, I can just grab this dynamic content, okay, from my tweet. And if you basically come here, you have here some data. which is called tweet text. There you go. So it's tweet text, and I want this tweeted by. If you don't know what it is, to be totally honest, test this, run it, and then you can check the JSON that comes, and you will find, okay, where the data is coming. Okay, and there you go. I can just save this. Bam! I can just run this, and now, hey, if someone do that, I will just get an email. That's it. Okay. This is just running. I'm not going to bother you guys with this here, but basically that is the big idea of creating a logic app. Okay. What about functions? Okay, so that's, as you can see, it's a visual experience. I have a bunch of providers there for OneDrive, for SQL, for Office 365, you name it. And even in Flow, you can also have a bunch of them, etc. But I want to write code, but I want also to have this trigger stuff without writing the code to do the triggers. So that's exactly what functions can give me. I don't want that visual experience. I want to have the power to write my own code. So basically what you get is code plus events, okay? This is Azure Functions. And with Azure Functions, I support a bunch of languages. I support C#, Node, Java, Python, F#, even PowerShell and Bash. It is supported. Also support packages from NuGet and NPM. And you can even run just an executable or call some DLLs from an Azure function. So it is quite powerful, all the things that I can do with this. And then there is a big reason, is that I have, okay, a bunch of triggers that can trigger my Azure function without me worrying about what usually we call it the plumbing code. I don't have to set up any plumbing code to make this happen. I just need to say, that's the event. I want to monitor that event. If that happens, starts the Azure function. And that's it, okay? That's literally it. This is why this is so cool and so powerful. And I have triggers like for blob storage, Cosmos, but I have some slides after that we can also check this. And of course, bindings. Then in the end, I can also say, oh, I want to bind this with other stuff. So I execute my stuff, I have an outcome, and then I can just basically send that outcome to OneDrive, to a file, to a table storage, you name it, okay? It's pretty cool. So scale and hosting, Azure Functions. There are also others, but there are two big ways to host this, okay? Which is consumption and app service plan. An app service plan is a traditional app service plan that you use when you create a web app. So you have to go to Azure. I can show you here. Okay, so if I want to come here, I go to app service plans. And if I want to create an app service plan, okay, as you can see here, I just come here and then I have here the SKU and size. Okay, so this bit here down on the bottom. In my case here, I'm choosing a premium V2 P1. It's basically 2 cores, 3.5 gigs of RAM. Like I said before, look, if you don't use it, you're paying for it. That comes with a price. It's like, I think it's like 100 and something euros per month. And look, if you don't use it, you're still paying. I have stuff that I run. I think I have like 85 different Azure functions, okay, for my personal stuff, etc. And I pay really a really low rate on that. I don't even see sometimes the price of that in my Azure bill every month, because it is quite small. I used to have all that running on top of an app service plan, and I was paying, the app service plan was paying 100 euros, or it was not 100, it was like 60 something because it was a standard, but still, it is considerable in a big company, okay, when you have a bunch of app services, a bunch of stuff. It's going to be a huge saving that you can do, because I can change this to consumption. And like I said to you, you're basically getting billed by the minute, by exactly the compute time that you spend, the memory that you spend, okay? That's the beauty of running this in Serverless. Also, I don't have to set up any kind of scaling. That's gone. I don't have to worry about that. When I'm running in app service plans, I have to go there and say, well, if this gets 80% CPU consumption in the past 10 minutes as an average, I need to get a new instance for this, because app services allows you to have more than one instance. Basically, in the back, it's more than one virtual machine. It will do the balancing automatically for you, etc. So all that infrastructure stuff, you don't have to worry, but you still need to set up the scaling rule, and you need to monitor that. Because if you don't have capacity, well, yeah, you need to re-engineer your application. You need to do something about it, okay? But when we go to consumption, all that is gone. We don't have to worry about that. And Azure Functions, in terms of hosting, it's not just in here, okay? We can have a bunch of other places where we can host this too. I can do development on my local machine. So there is basically an Azure emulator that basically you run the Azure Functions emulator on your machine, and I can just run stuff from my machine. That's pretty cool, okay? I can also do this, and I can host, you already saw there the Docker logo for sure. I can basically, there is a Docker image, and for Azure Functions that you can run Azure Functions inside a container. So of course, I can also run this in my local machine, and I can run this in my local machine in a Windows machine, a Mac, or a Linux. So I don't care what the hell OS you use. I literally don't. You will run this, okay? If you're hosting this for production scenarios, you have the consumption plan, can also do Windows or Linux. You have the the Azure Functions service, the app service, okay? Also code, container, Windows, Linux. We also have the premium plan, okay, that can also run. And all of this is Azure services. But I can even do more, okay? I can even host this on IoT devices, okay? I can host this in additional hosts like AKS, Service Fabric Mesh, you name it, using containers, of course, in this case. I can even go to regular Kubernetes, let's just call it that you install on-prem. You can run Azure Functions there, or even using other clouds, okay? Containers in other clouds like AWS, okay? So I have a customer that they're doing a POC that's exactly that, okay? They want to run Azure Functions in AWS, okay? They have a reason for that. We know there's something called Lambda functions there, but they want to do that, okay? And there is a reason for that. I can't tell, and it's not the purpose of today's call, but it's quite a cool experience, okay? And also app services on Azure Stack, so you can also have this on Azure Stack, and who knows, in Azure Arc, okay, if we don't get something like this too, okay? So that's the beauty of all of this. I can really run this everywhere. So let's just start to do, and let's do here very quickly an Azure function. So I'm just going to create a resource, okay? And I'm just, first of all, we need to create is a function app. So I'm just going to create your function app, pretty basic, just create, okay, create a resource. I just have to say here, I just go to that resource group. I'm just going to choose the same resource group that we did before. I choose here a function app name, and then in here is where I start to see if I want to run code or Docker. I want code, okay? What's the runtime stack? .NET Core, version 3.1, and I'm just going to choose this in West Europe, okay? And then I'm going to the next tab, which is the hosting tab. And in here, you can choose what is the operating system, okay, that you want to run this. I can choose Linux or Windows. I'm good with Windows, that's fine, that's not a problem. And then here, I can choose the plan type, and it's in the plan type that you have the option to choose between consumption, premium plan, and also an app service. Okay, so I'm going for consumption, which is the one that I promise you. Then I still even have the monitor. I can do tags. That's always do tags, by the way. Okay, but it's kind of like saying don't do drugs. Okay, so I always like to say don't always do tags. It is quite addictive. I have to confess to use tags because the kind of insights that you can get from those are quite awesome. But so right now we are we're creating here our our Azure function. So the Azure function itself was already created. I just need to create the associated storage account. This is a storage account for logging purposes and things like that. So it seems to be all good. Just probably validating some last things. And what I'm going to do now is, after this, I'm just going to open the resource and I'm going to create a function there, okay? Just going to create like a basic function so that we can understand that from the portal, we even have an experience, okay? And by the way, for people that already saw Azure Functions, you're going to get surprised probably right now, okay? Because there is a new UI experience for Azure Functions, see? Okay, so this is my Azure function. So if I go to functions, I can click here, add. So as you can see, this is totally brand new from the experience that everyone knew until now. And then in here, I have the templates, and this is the triggers, okay? I can have an HTTP trigger, so just do a get or a post, you decide, and basically your function will just start. I can also connect this with a timer trigger. So like, oh, every 30 minutes, great. So imagine that you come from the SharePoint world from on-prem and you're migrating stuff to Office 365. And remember timer jobs that we have there. You need a timer job, but there are no timer jobs, right, on M365. So yeah, exactly. This can be a replacement for that. In the code, you just need to basically put and connect to Office 365 and do whatever your timer job needs to do. But yeah, you can use this. And in serverless mode, so this you're just going to pay again exactly what you run. You don't need to have a virtual machine running Windows services, like I already saw at some customers. They had a VM on Azure running Windows services that were replacing timer jobs. And I was like, what? Really? How are you guys doing this? And I have others, okay, like Cosmos. Every time that you get a blob, okay, in an Azure storage account, things like that. I'm going for the HTTP trigger. The new function name, HTTP trigger, it's an awesome name for my demo here. I'm not going to change that. Of course, I think everyone understands that in real world, yeah, change that, okay? And basically, this is my function. I can go code plus tests, and you see the code here, okay? And I have the experience that I can change the code if I want here. So this code just does something pretty basic. So you're going to do a post, and on the body, you're going to send a name, and basically this will just basically say yellow, and then the name that you send on the body of the request. So that will be the response, will be just a piece of JSON saying yellow and the name that you put it there. So I can even test it here. So I have a testing interface here. You can just say, oh, you want what, a post or a get? I'm just like, okay, great. I can just say M365 marathon. I can just click run, and you have a small console thingy over there. So you say, oh, connected, and you see there, okay, see yellow M365 marathon, and then blah blah blah, some text that they add here, okay, some text, and you get a 200 okay message. So like this is Azure Functions, okay, like of course in here now, look, you just need to change the body of this here, okay, that's it, okay, literally, and connect whatever you guys need to connect, etc., you name it, okay. So in a nutshell, I have what? I have the Azure service, okay. I can have functions. So as you can see over there, I have my Azure function, and then this will just execute. I have a bunch of triggers that I can have on my Azure function, like Cosmos DB. So every time that you get a new document on this NoSQL experience, bam, your Azure function will just do something. I just built this for a customer that every time that they get a new document on Cosmos DB, that's a new order. And then they have to process the order. Well, that's what the function does. The function goes, tries to connect to a bunch of suppliers, tries to understand where I can have that the cheaper and the fastest way possible. Then he has like some intelligence to decide where to buy it, and it just issues purchase orders on those suppliers. Okay, so that we can build what the customer asks us to build on the order. And then of course blob and queue triggers. Okay, I have other examples here too, but I have also a slide with some examples. But I have like one that every time that we put a new, so it's basically a new blob over there is a PDF document. I have to take the PDF document. I need to send it to Azure Cognitive Services to understand the document, and then I basically put that what I can grab from that document into a Cosmos DB database. Okay, so all of this we can have. Also, of course, the HTTP request that I showed you, the scheduled trigger, but also triggers based on third-party services like GitHub. Okay, what's the name of that? Twilio. Okay, also Twilio. I don't know if you guys know Twilio, but Twilio is a great service. One of the things that it does is you can basically send text messages and also receive text messages. So every time that I receive a text message in Twilio, I can have this connected with Twilio, and I get that message and I can basically act on that. Okay. So a medical practice, for example, they have something that we built for them, which is they send a text message saying, oh yeah, tomorrow you're going to have your appointment at X hours with Dr. blah, 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 or whatever it is. And then they have something like, if you need to cancel this, okay, please respond to this and text blah, blah, blah. And so they can do that. Okay, so people say, oh, damn, I can't go. So basically they just cancel through a text message. So there's no one involved. And of course we get that, we get the notification, we have an Azure function, bam, our Azure functions go to our system and it just basically removes that from there. It is quite cool what you can do with that. Basically in terms of inputs and output bindings. So like I said here, so I have triggers here, I have my service, my input bindings, all this through function apps, and then I can have output bindings on this, and I can connect this with other services. The big advantage of doing this kind of stuff, okay, is that you do not have to write the plumbing code. You're going to focus where you're just going to focus on your function, and that's it. Okay, you don't have to worry about anything else. That's your focus. Your business is writing the code for the function, not the plumbing code, and that's awesome. Okay, so that's the binding thing that I have in here. Okay, and then I have another picture with some examples. Okay, like a schedule trigger. I can even then go and I have a binding, which is an input binding to grab some documents from Cosmos DB. Okay, and I can also have stuff like output bindings, like, oh, just create some, I don't know, like images or PDFs, send that to an Azure storage account. Again, without you writing the code to make that happen. Okay, just said, oh, this is the blob, that's my output binding, this should go there. That's it. Okay, you don't have to write anything on top of this. So I can also do this in Visual Studio, of course, and also in Visual Studio Code. And then that's, of course, it's my preferred experience. Usually I use code for this kind of stuff. There's extensions, okay? Just search for the Azure Functions extension, for the Azure account extension. That will help you a lot in building this kind of stuff. And then you can even deploy directly to Azure and things like that from over there, okay? And this is like an example that I have here in terms of function code. This here, as you can see, the function name is called QTrigger C#. Then it has a QTrigger, okay? So that's the magic. It's basically this bit here, okay, that does, okay, this QTrigger, okay, then as this my queue items. And then you have a connection here that you have in a file. That's, oh, that's that storage account over there, okay, that has basically a queue called my queue items. And every time that there is a message on that queue, bam, this function code will run. And that's like awesome, okay, the stuff that we can do with this. One last topic that I want to make a reference, and only making a reference, it is called durable functions. So durable functions, it is pretty cool because I can write stateful functions, okay, in something that is a stateless environment. So this basically durable functions is an extension for Azure Functions and Azure Web Jobs. This lets you write stateful functions in this serverless environment. This extension will manage the state, will manage the checkpoints and all the restarts, okay, all of that will be managed for you. There are some scenarios. I just bring into you one, which is the chaining one. I have a function, save the state, it will be the input of the next function. And you can have this, okay, all the way. If you run this, basically, if you just write code for this, this is what you write. Okay, basically durable function scenario, chaining code. So you have this one, X, just run that, function one. Then you have Y, you have basically call an activity as sync. You just say F2 with the input of X, which is basically the output of function one. And you can just basically do this. This is like super cool what you can do here. Of course, look, you can change F1, 2, and 3, and 4 for sure. Okay, that's not even a question. Best practices. Okay, avoid long-running functions. In serverless mode, so in consumption mode, there is basically a timeout of 5 minutes. You can tweak it to 10, but still it is only 5 or 10 minutes. Still, what I tell people is like even 5 minutes. Let's just say 5 minutes. If you have a function that is taking more than 5 minutes, an execution of something of a function, one, it's not a function. It should not be a function. Or two, you can divide it in multiple Azure functions. Okay, I already saw people saying, oh, there's a function, goes there, does that, then goes there, does something else, and then over there, then over there, over there, over there, over there. No, that should be several functions, not just one function. Okay, so that's the idea. Okay, also write stateless functions, code defensively. Always assume that your applications will fail. And then in here, in functions, that's something that's not even visual. This could be just processing something, and then in the middle of the processing, bam, just basically mess up something. It is quite important for you to manage that quite well. Okay, so some scenarios, like I said, every 15 minutes, okay, you can just write a function that will just clean some invalid data, okay, in a table. Or I can have, like, every time that a file is added to a blob storage, I can have a function grabs that file, and imagine it was a CSV file, transforms that in data rows and basically drops that to a table storage, to a SQL database, and then you can have a Power BI chart, okay, being used with that, okay? And I have others here, but let's just move on. So tools that I have, I always like to leave you guys some tools, and I will share the presentation. Okay, so if you can go, just grab the links for the presentation. It's Visual Studio Code, Git, Functions, Documents. I think it's quite important for you guys to get started. There are some quick start guides there. It is quite cool. Just start from there, and you will learn a lot more about Azure Functions. So I'll just say Thank you, everyone. So my name is Tiago Costa, and this is how you do and how you can use Azure Functions, okay? And that's it. Thank you very much. And of course, thanks for joining us. And I'll be here answering questions if you have questions, okay? And don't forget to fill in, okay, the event and the speaker